Ryan Chambers joins the show to discuss his takeaways from the preseason so far by the Dallas Stars. How significant is that Jamie Benn injury? And one thing he's looking forward to watching this season from the Stars. All that and more next.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Ryan Chambers of Starcastic Remarks is back and joining the show. So happy to have him on board. Going to talk about some of his takeaways from the preseason since he does have a life and he has a wife and kids. He wasn't able to watch the game tonight. So I'll share some thoughts, but we're not going to dive into the Stars' victory over the Blues tonight by a final score.
I'll take that.
5-3. Yeah, big time victory. Wyatt Johnston, man, I know he's great, but boy, has he looked good. So did Tyler Seguin. Is he going to score 30 this year? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll kick that question over to you too. But plenty of stuff to get into on today. So first off, Ryan, thank you for joining. How are you, good sir?
It's busy right now, especially at work. So I really wanted badly to watch this game live, but literally as soon as I'm done here, we're recording this at like 9:30. Literally right after the game, I'm gonna go watch it after we're done here. So
perfect. So we can catch up a bit later on some of your thoughts. But just overall, first off, I know you've watched some other preseason action. What are you seeing from Glenn Gulutzan's club? Of course, tonight was sort of the first time we got to see the majority of the roster, but have you noticed anything different from Gulutzan and maybe the Stars' approach here over the last few weeks?
But one of the biggest takeaways I've taken from him is he's not afraid. He's not afraid. Afraid. You can tell I'm tired. He's not afraid to try different combos with whoever. And that goes for in terms of line combos with the forwards or with the D pairings either. So he's not afraid to try two lefties together, two righties together, to have, untypical guys who we've seen over the last couple of years together. Like, I mean, obviously we've still seen those same combos that we saw underneath Pete DeBoer, but he has not been shy about trying different things. I mean, and that's what you're supposed to do, because you never know, and we'll talk about Jamie Benn's injury here in a second, but freak things happen, freak accidents happen, and you have to be ready for these things. So you just got to be able to rely upon different chemistries in different places if certain players are out. So that's been one of the biggest things. But I think the single biggest thing that I have seen from the Stars as a whole is the defensive coverage is very different. That is something and the thing is I know a lot of people are kind of complaining about it right now on social media. They're frustrated. They're like, why are we letting in all these goals against like the Blues B team or something like that? I saw something like that before we jumped on here. And the thing is we're going to see a lot of this to begin the season. I mean, we just need to prepare ourselves and be aware that the Stars are probably going to give up more goals at the beginning of this year because it's a completely brand new, different system. They did the exact same thing when Pete DeBoer came in. It's going to happen again. But that's the negative part of it. But the positive part of it is I like it so much better. Like it makes, especially for the goaltenders, and for even Otter himself has said that his ability to see the puck and not have to worry about the east to west stuff as much and just worry more about the north and south stuff is a million times easier. And we've seen a little bit of a hybrid situation. We've seen straight up zone where the guys are worried about their corner of the ice or their center of the ice or whatever it is. That's been the most encouraging thing to me, is that they've been able to kind of, juggle a little bit of both. And we'll have to see which one they kind of stick with as the regular season comes up. But in far and above, that's been the most interesting thing for me, is watching the D-zone coverage.
Yeah, I saw that tonight in full effect, sort of that zone hybrid system. It seems more like Dallas is trying to stay in defensive posture. And as you mentioned, just have good sticks and passing lanes to take away some of that width of the rink stuff. And they're just not as aggressive on the puck carrier, where we've seen in the past couple seasons where they would attack the puck carrier. They would try to swarm them and win possession that way. At least in my eyes, it felt like they waited for the opposition to make a mistake, and then they would jump in if they fumble the puck, then grab possession and then move it up and out of their own zone. The Stars were really good in the first period, and then they were super good in the third for the most part of getting out of their own zone pretty freely. And the Blues punched back in the second period. The Stars struggled to make some plays, but I think it was a combination of the Blues outworking Dallas and the Stars just struggling to maybe work a bit harder in that middle frame. But that was something that really caught my eyes tonight too. It's really the first game I've kind of got to sit down and watch more intently. And as you mentioned, it seems more like that Vegas style where they're almost kind of collapsing to the middle of the rink. And just if they want to play on the outside of the rink, they can. And they're going to have to find a way to get interior. And a couple of the goals they gave up, 2 of the 3 were off faceoffs tonight. They just had some mistakes with assignments. Rantanen had one he messed up, and the other one, Labushkin and Bichel were a bit scrambled. They just were kind of a no man's land, and that led to a couple of goals. But for the most part, they were strong. They did give up a goal off the rush tonight, and that was something Goaltending mentioned he wants to try to take away from teams, and we saw that a lot last season, just how much teams are coming downhill, and they would open up that width of the rink pass. How many times we saw a guy come in, curl back, and then he's able to feed it to a guy trailing, and then that leads to a good opposition. So that was something that jumped out to me as well. And I think the Stars are a bit more conscious of holding on to pucks in the own zone. Or in the offensive zone, I should say. They seem to kind of really relish on having possession, cycling, working hard on the walls, and then creating some offense that way, which I think is a bit different as well. So I think all things are pointed in a positive direction. And as you mentioned, I think there's just going to be this learning curve for Dallas early on, and they're going to have to ask DeSmith and Otter to maybe clean up some of those mistakes early. And to be frank, they have some new combinations they're working with. You mentioned how he's willing to try some things out. We saw Seguin, who looked really great tonight too. I think he's going to be on the opening night roster with Seguin and Duchesne, picked up an assist, driving the net hard. We saw Seguin with Steele and Duchesne at some point. We saw him with Bork. We saw him with Bork and Johnston. We saw Robertson with Bork and Johnston. Like there was a whole lot of combinations. So they're not afraid to mix things up. So how do you like the overall, I guess, vibe of the coaching staff? Because it seems like it is a much more collaborative process than it has been in years past. And how do you think that may benefit things like the power play, the penalty kill, with Neil Graham and Elaine Nasri maybe having a bit more input than if this was DeBoer, it was sort of his way or the highway, so to speak?
I love the way that Glenn Goaltending has talked about in terms of collaboration. That was one of the first things he said in his opening press conference when he basically won the press conference, which is what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And that kind of collaboration, I think, is going to help a ton, because especially with Glenn Goaltending, he said he doesn't want to come in here and change too much, right? He just wants to be able to kind of pick some of the things that were really good out of DeBoer's system, continue those things, and then fix the little things that he thinks are mistakes. And if there is anybody that can fix those defensive miscues, it's him. He completely exploited the Stars in the last 2 years as the offensive coach for the Oilers. And so he knows exactly what their problems were. Yeah. And he's saying, look, this is what I did. This is how we fix this. This is what you have to do. This is your responsibility. But I love the ability of this coaching staff to be collaborative. That's going to be a huge word that I think we see moving forward from all of these guys. Because even though that this is kind of a weird hodgepodge of coaches and everything, there's less experience, but all of these guys have been in charge at some point as a head coach somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like Neil Graham has been a head coach for a long time with Texas. Elaine Nasri, I think, was with the Devils, if I remember correctly, as the head coach.
Yeah.
And then obviously Goalie has been a head coach before, but he's kind of been out of the picture for a very long time.
Yeah.
So he's probably relying especially upon Alain Nasreddine for more of that role of, okay, who are the players that I need to pick and pull, which things can I throw at these players to make them tick, or do I need to stay away from this particular strategy of getting this player to, what I need him to do or whatever. So, but either way, the collaboration for this coaching staff is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Adapt or die. That's what it's all about. And Goldson probably gets his last go around to be a head coach. He's going to try to make it worth it. That's for sure. But he's going to have to do it for the first month, maybe month and a half without his captain, Jamie Benn. So how significant is the injury to Ben? We'll ask Ryan after this. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does some of that heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Those can be so complicated. That's why Monarch Money is there for you. You can maximize your investments, increase your savings, easily review your finances for yourself or with your partner or financial advisor. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. So the first big blow to the Dallas Stars in training camp comes via an injury to Jamie Benn. He suffers a collapsed lung. That's another thing the Stars did really good tonight, Ryan. I think everybody's healthy coming out of the game. So
very important.
Yes, that was very important. There was a couple times some guys got spun down. I just said, okay, get up, be okay. Especially some of the old veterans like Seguin. Man, he was flying around tonight. But his old pal Jamie Benn is out. So I'm curious because I feel like the Stars, weirdly enough, are in a good spot to sort of weather this. But I think it's going to be till, I think, best case scenario Thanksgiving, when you get a fully healthy Jamie Benn, because he's going to have to rehab. First, he has to get reevaluated in 4 weeks. So this may be a 2-month thing, but it also could be a blessing in disguise. It gives Ritscovian an opportunity. Maybe he sees that tonight, or a Huru. So how do you see the Stars now? Has this injury maybe changed your perspective coming into the season? Because in years past, I think we would say that, but maybe not as much anymore. But he still is an important piece in that locker room. And we've seen when he's not playing, even just a couple of games last year, the Stars just don't always feel right because we're so used to seeing him out there. So how do you take all of this info and your perspective of Dallas now this year?
Yeah, like you said, on the ice, I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot. I don't want to say it that way, but I mean, that's kind of true. I feel like a lot of Stars fans kind of feel that way. Like, obviously his offense is not going to be as missed. He's strictly a bottom six guy. He's probably more relegated to a third line role with, where we are with left wing depth wise. But the most thing I'm interested to see is this is Jamie Benn's team, but with him out of the lineup and with him in the press box, yeah, he can come in, during intermissions and say, guys, get your heads out of your butts. Let's go, something like that. But who's going to be the person that steps up and in that role, whether that's, with the words that come out of somebody's mouth, whether it's with the play of someone in particular. And I will be very interested to see who that player will be moving forward. In terms of on the ice, I completely agree with you that this is a huge opportunity for Justin Ritscovian. Ritzy he's ready. He's ready. And what's also kind of nice is that he's not going to be relegated to a fourth line role where he's going to be playing. He's going to be playing in that middle six. And from what it sounded like from the preseason game tonight, he had a couple of opportunities to play with some really good players. He got to play with Duchesne. He got to play with Johnson is what it sounded like. So that's kind of more geared towards his game rather than, a Foxa or a Bastion or a Oscar Beck type player. So that for me, with the significance of Benn's injury, I think it's going to hurt the Stars, the leadership team, even though they've got a lot of guys who should be able to do that. And I honestly think it's probably going to be Tyler Seguin who should step up and be more of the vocal leader kind of guy that Ben. I know he's not super vocal in the locker room, but I think he needs to probably step up a little bit more. And then in terms of the on ice stuff, I mean, you got to look at Rantanen. He's making the money. He's got to be able to back that up, not just with the points and everything, but also with the physicality, because that's how Jamie Benn leads this team. It's by example. So Rantanen is going to have to fill that void in terms of Benn's play on the ice, because that is incredibly, incredibly important, and especially at the beginning of the season to kind of set the tone to see where it moves on from here. So lots of interesting storylines to see what happens, and not to throw Huru aside or anything like that, but I think Huru is more. He can be that offensive weapon. He can be. We've seen that in the AHL. Chris talks about him all the time. He loves Huru, but it just feels like Ritzy is more ready for that role than Huru is. But I could be wrong. Maybe goalie is looking more at Huru than Ritzkovian. So
yeah,
there's lots of things there.
Yeah, we still have one more preseason game on Saturday. We should see Huru there, but Ritzkovian performed very well tonight when he needed to. And I also think that was significant because there was some pressure on him to play well tonight. And as you mentioned, him getting the opportunity to play with guys like Seguin and Duchesne, Bork and Johnston will certainly benefit him. And he created a goal by just driving the net. I mean, he turned on the Jets. He was flying through center, protected on his backhand. He went right to the crease, and then Seguin came in and cleaned it up. So that's what you want to see out of Ritzkovian, playing a really simple game. He was playing within himself. I think that's really important from a young player as well, that he looked pretty confident. And it probably helps playing with some older veterans. I think that's why this is a good opportunity for him too, because you don't just have to throw him into a lineup that maybe is decimated by injuries. It's just an injury to your captain, but you have guys like Duchesne and Seguin where you can kind of put them under your wing. We saw that with Johnston early on when he came up for the first time a couple years ago. I know it was the beginning of the season, but he had that sort of dozen game tryout. And then all of a sudden you're like, he's going to stick around this entire season and play all 82. And Ritzkovian may have an opportunity, depending on how he performs. He could stick around even when Ben comes back. You never know, and find himself in the lineup permanently. But did a lot of good things for himself here tonight. But it stinks, of course, to have Ben out, just because it seemed like he was going to be sort of in that middle six. I know we all kind of view him as a guy that should be playing on the fourth line, or he's more of a 12 to 14 minute guy than he is now an 18 minute. But I think he's still going to be a pretty key piece for Goalie. And I don't think it's nothing that his relationship with Goalie, I think that really helped at least kind of deliver this message as the captain to kind of usher in this new era. He was a big part of that, as you mentioned. So now it's like you have Seguin, who has to be sort of a pseudo captain and try to get that job done. Okay, we talked about the forwards a lot. Anything defensively you sort of have picked up on? How do you sort of like the pairings going into the season? It seems like they're rolling with Harley-Lundkvist, Lindell, Miro, Bichel, Labushkin. Where are you sort of on that, and where Dallas is heading on the blue line?
I love the D pairings, to be honest with you. And as much as I love Miro and Essa, and they're just so sound defensively, they just finish every single defensive play correctly. And yes, pun intended, finish. But the my favorite defensive pairing to watch has been Harley and Lundkvist. Like they just and it makes sense, right? Like both of these guys they feed into the offensive side of the game a little bit. They both can move the puck pretty well, and Nils Lundkvist is looking to take that top 4 role kind of solidify himself in that role as the number 4 guy. I think that is one super key for him because he had such a great season last year. And I know the numbers don't really back that up, at least in terms of just traditional stats, but you go and look at the advanced metrics with Nils Lundkvist last year. He was playing great. Mm-hmm. Like he was playing so well on the defensive side of the game. And then we just kept saying, if he can just get a couple more goals to go in. And then we saw him going up the ice the last couple of games before he got hurt and it was out for the season. And he was starting to get his game together where he was starting to figure out how to balance both. I think that is so key for himself and then for this Dallas Stars team. If he can truly solidify that number 4 role, then everything else falls into place. Like Lyubushkin, I remember talking with you about this, is he seems to be the quote unquote, favorite to be the number 4 defenseman right now. Although the pairings tonight don't really say that, but he's kind of like that safety blanket. If Nils Lundkvist is not quite ready, right? Like he can play that role, but that's not where he would be most effective. He's more effective as that bottom 6 guy. He's very good at being a bottom 6 or bottom 2 guy, excuse me. But if Lundkvist or Bichel can just solidify that number 4 role, that helps both of them. Chris seems to think that Bichel is going to be that guy by the end of the season. Okay. I tend to think that Lundkvist is going to be able to solidify that role. And then that Dallas decor is just going to look so much better if both of those guys can really take that next step forward. But just watching Harley and Nils kind of feed off of each other, even just 5-on-5 has been a lot of fun. I think I was watching I think it was the second or third preseason game where they had a pretty heavy NHL veteran lineup. And both of those guys were in, and they were just feeding off of each other like ridiculous. Like with both of those guys, and then when they would have the top line on the ice, you couldn't stop them. The passing was so crisp. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that pairing in particular get going in the regular season. Because we can talk about how great they've been in the preseason, but it doesn't really matter until we get there.
Yeah, we're 9 days away now. I think from opening night, which is crazy. And they really complement each other. Like Lundkvist made a play tonight about feeding into the offense, sort of to that point. He walked a guy wide, finishes a check, and then Harley jumps on the loose puck, moves it up the ice, and then Lundkvist takes off, and then he gets a pass through neutral ice, and then he walks down and puts a shot on net. Like that's sort of their game, and what they can do. And I'm looking forward to seeing Lundkvist with Harley too. Maybe that'll help the offensive production a bit more. Maybe that will tick up because you said that the traditional stats weren't all there. So if he can produce a bit that way, that's good. And it really helps a goaltender. It's going to give him a leash, I think. Like, hey, this is your opportunity. He stated that. That is also a big thing. I think that just is a confidence inspiring where maybe last couple of years under DeBoer, it was just a bit shaky. Maybe he didn't know where he stood all the time. Although he had a good start to the year, of course, but the injury derailed that. So some good stuff there from Harley and Lundkvist tonight. So now one big thing to watch this season. I'm curious what Ryan's one big thing is for the Stars this year. It could be anything, could be fun, could be a little bit stupid. I have some stupid things I like to watch too. So we'll get his thoughts on that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. We never know if the Dallas Cowboys are going to be ready for kickoff. One day they are, one day they're not, but that's okay. FanDuel is for you. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets just to use across the app. You can fit however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay. If you just like watching your team, maybe your fantasy lineup, we all have different ways we like to get in on the action when you're watching football on Sundays. It's quick, it's easy, adds a little bit more energy to your Sundays. FanDuel, $5, your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now, visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. One big thing, Ryan, that you are ready to watch this year for the Dallas Stars. The floor is yours.
Well, we talked about forwards and defensemen. Why not discuss the goaltending? I think that's going to be the one big thing to watch is how Jake Oettinger is utilized this season. And it's going, and maybe even more specifically, how Casey DeSmith is going to be utilized. Because he had a fantastic year for the Dallas Stars. Both of the guys, but I'm specifically talking about DeSmith. His numbers were off the charts. He played really well. It seemed like he got stuck in there in games against teams that they were just getting out numerously shot in a lot of these games. And Casey DeSmith stood on his head a lot of the time and saved some games. He's going to have to do that more. And the goaltending rotation is going to be so key because not only is, Otter going to be the number one, and because of the Olympics break and the fact that I think there's 9 back-to-backs, there's lots of opportunities for the Stars to have 3 games in 4 days. There's lots of that stuff. He's got to have more rest. And he's not quite that Connor Hellebuck level where he can just play 60 to 70 games and then be okay in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you look at Connor Hellebuck, he has had the last 2 regular seasons have been absolutely ridiculous. He has by far, without question, been the best goaltender in the NHL. But when you look at the playoffs, when it really matters, what does everybody talk about? It's his inability to get it done in the playoffs with Connor Hellebuck. And that's going to be something very interesting for me to watch is how are they going to have that balancing act between the 2 guys? Like, are we legit going to see like a 50-30 split where Otter plays 50 to 55 games and, DeSmith gets into 30 to 35? I think that is a legitimate thing that will probably happen this year because, again, on top of all of that, I think Otter, he's got a really good shot of being the starter for Team USA. Yeah. And I don't think that Connor Hellebuck is going to have as long of a leash in the Olympics as some people think he's going to be because he's shown in some very big key moments, and at least in the playoffs especially, that it's unsure if he's going to be able to get that done. And in the Olympics, you might have 1 game and you're done, and that's it. Yeah, you don't have an opportunity. Yeah. So I don't think that leash is going to be long. So that's going to require Otter to jump in there for Team USA at some point, I believe. So that's another thing that's going to jump in there. And it's not like the Olympics are here in the Western Hemisphere. It's all the way in Italy. So yeah. I know that seems crazy and stuff like that, but for those of us that have traveled halfway across the world and been over there in Europe or whatever, the jet lag is real. And even, and it doesn't, I'm sure that, professional athletes are able to, be able to handle the situation probably a little bit better than we would, but there's still that period of time where they have to acclimate themselves back to being in North America or whatever. And that's going to take some time. Casey DeSmith is not going to be on an Olympic team. So don't be surprised to see, especially after the Olympic break, if Casey DeSmith gets his share of starts. That's going to be the biggest thing for me is just how is Glenn Golitzin, how is Jeff Reese going to balance the 2 goalies? Because they've got one of the best tandems in the NHL.
Well, exactly. That's the point I was going to make. At least you have a very, very good backup, a serviceable backup that, has been sort of a number one in some spots before. So if they have to really go to him, they can do that. And I haven't really touched on that very much too, about him going over to Italy and thinking about that and the extra travel he's going to have to take. And I hope it does fuel him though, to play really, really well out of the gates. The Stars, they're going to need that. And he has. Last season got off to a really hot start. He was incredible. He was the main reason they were winning a lot of their games. Their offense was good, but man, he was almost borderline insane with some of the stops he was making. And DeSmith too. They got up to such a quick start and then sort of slumped there in the middle of the season. We all know how it all ended. My one thing to watch, and this going to be one of my hotter takes, I think, for the season.
It's going to be one of the stupid ones you were talking about, right?
Maybe, but maybe not. You just got to listen to it for. Sam Steele is going to be a better complement to Duchesne and Seguin than Marchment ever was. I think that's going to be one of my hot takes.
Okay.
I'm ready for it. I've always been a huge fan of Steele, and I think this is now an awesome opportunity for him to show what he can really do in a spot where he's going to be asked, I think, to contribute a bit more, just because he plays so direct, he plays so simple. And with Duchesne still having some juice in those legs, and we all know he can cut and spin and make those passes, Steele needs to get to the net and playing alongside Seguin. I'm also not going to be shocked if he plays with maybe Henson Rantanen or Henson and Robo. I could see him getting on the top line a bit. He's that versatile. And with the injury to Ben and maybe them sort of mixing some things up, like they threw Steele up there with Rantanen at one point tonight. So I'm saying he's going to be a real key piece for Dallas. And I think he'll be a great compliment. So I'm ready for that. And maybe, in November, we're thinking Marchment wasn't that big of a loss. And I love Marchment more than anybody. I wish they could keep him around. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a cap casualty because I would always go to war for him. But I'm ready for the Sam Steele sort of breakout, because it just feels like this is a year now that he's really going to get a full opportunity to kind of play up instead of just being relegated on a fourth line just because the Stars were so deep.
I'm really interested to see how that works out, because we've talked about the number 6 forward, like who is that number 6 forward, like whether that be Johnston, which it doesn't look like it's going to be, because I think they like him in playing center, or is it going to be Bork, or what's the deal, like who is it going to be? That will be very interesting to see if Sam Steele can do that. And a lot of people also forget the fact that I can't remember how long he was in Minnesota for. I think he was there for like a year or two, but there were points before the Marco Rossi era where he was playing on that top line with Kirill Kaprizov and with I cannot believe I forgot his name. Who?
Zooks?
Yes, Zuccarello. Thank you.
Yeah, he got hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I saw that. He's out, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's going to be interesting to see. And I think it's going to be really important for him that he kind of takes on that Dodonov role. That's why Dodonov did so well last year, is because he got up to 20 goals again last year, was because he was all over the place. I remember Dodonov at some points was on the top line. And for like a week or two, he was clicking with Henson, whoever it was. I think it might have just been Robo at that point. But like he's got to fill that role that Dodonov left when Dodonov signed in New Jersey. So that's really interesting. I like that idea. I don't know if I necessarily believe it yet, but that could be. I'm not discounting that at all. That could be a strong possibility.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Time will tell. Time will tell. And again, like I just think sometimes I've touched on this, over the last couple of weeks, and you kind of have brought up the experimentation. Sometimes it's just players you just don't always think, or maybe it's just like, sometimes it's just it's not as obvious, where it's like, okay, that guy obviously plays well with him, like Robo and Hintz. You don't always get that perfect. Sometimes that third guy doesn't need to be a superstar, be an elite level talent to be productive with guys of that. Like, I mean, I think it's fair to say Pavelski at the end of his career, we all know how talented his was, but how talented he was, but he's playing with Hintz and Robo, some young guys that were flying around, and they were great. They were great line together, the best in the league for a couple of years. So Steele's going to have a really, really good shot. Well, speaking of Minnesota, Kaprizov owns all of Minnesota now. He got paid. So he's going to have a couple lake houses to his name in a couple months. But how do you think that really affects? Does it affect Jason Robertson? I think obviously it does. Like, he just reset the market. I mean, and then McDavid has to go. But Man, I did an episode on this. I just don't know how realistic it is that the Stars are going to be able to re-sign him. But if anybody was to do it, I would put my trust in Jim Nill. So just overall thoughts on that, and now the future of Robo. And I think you got to throw Harley kind of in that conversation too.
Chris and James and I argued about this all day today via text. Like it was all day today, and
to be in that group chat.
Oh my goodness! I actually thought about like taking some snapshots and putting them on Twitter and being or X or whatever it's called now, and being like, "This is what we talk about during the day." It's not about family and stuff like that. It's what are Harley and Robo going to re-sign for under 10 million? And that was one of the things that I said. I was just like, I don't know, especially if Harley has another year that he had last year. I'm not sure how we get him under 10 million.
I know, but it's like, do you pay him more than Miro? Like, I get the cap's increasing, but that's so tough. Like, that's such a hard conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that people have to understand, and the thing that people have to look at, is that we were in a flat cap world for a while, and then it just increased just a little bit over the last 2 or 3 years as the league has gotten better in terms of revenue, and now I think we're up to like $6 billion in terms of revenue for the NHL, which it's starting to catch up to some of the other bigger leagues too in terms of percentage wise. And that's what you have to look at, is not necessarily the dollar amounts and like, well, he's not worth $8 million. Well, you don't know what that's worth. What you have to specifically look at is you have to look at the percentages, and like what percentage of the cap did such and such player take up when he signed that contract? Okay. Yeah. Well, I am worth, like, Kaprizov saying, I am worth that same percentage, but I am also the Minnesota Wild. For example, they had to overpay him because there's nobody else. And Kirill Kaprizov is, and I will put him above Robo, no questions asked. He's one of the top 10 players in the NHL, and especially in terms of points. And Robo's up there as well, but he's not quite that kind of money. But that's one of the biggest contracts I've ever seen. And but again, you if you go back and you look at the percentage of the cap compared to like what McDavid signed for, when McDavid signed for 12.6 or whatever it was, like that was an enormous percentage at the time. And now we're seeing guys, consistently making over 10 million now. We got Eichel. We saw Leon Draisaitl sign a contract that takes into effect this year that's over 14 million. Same thing with McKinnon. McKinnon's making like 12.6 or something like that, and he took a giant percentage of the cap when he signed that. And that's the thing, is the cap is not just increasing by like 2 or 3 million now. Like next year, it's going up to, I think, another 9 million. And then even the year after that, it's going up by almost another 10 million. So it's going over the next 2 years. That cap, it's already solidified, set in stone, that it's going up about, between 16 to 18 million, almost $20 million over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's the thing you have to look at. And that's what a lot of people are not really accounting for, is that, yes, you are going to have to pay these players a little bit more, but also the cap is going up as well. And the way that it's set up, and Chris actually went and did it because he was worried about it as well. It's like, how do we fit these guys under the cap? And it is more than doable because of what Jim Nill has done. He set himself up for some great success. It is very capable to give Robo more than 10 million, because that's I don't even think that's a question at this point. He's above 10 million. Yeah. Especially if we all talk about he's going to have a 100-point season. And then it's more than capable to get Harley in that 9 to 10, maybe $10.5 million range, and still be able to afford both of the players moving forward. It is very doable. I don't think Stars fans should be worried about keeping both of these guys.
Yeah, and I always struggle just looking at the numbers, and
it's hard. It's really hard.
Well, and I look at it as, Miro's like your best player. How can you pay someone more than that? But you also have to, as you kind of say, like you have to give Jim
He's
Nill credit.
5 years into his contract, I think, right?
Yeah,
4 or
and
5.
I believe. Let's see. I have kind of Puckpedia pulled up, but you also have to think like you have to give Jim Nill credit because he got these deals done early. He's like the anti Jerry Jones. He got these deals done early, so now it does set him up for the opportunity to give Harley a little bit more there. And as you said, maybe you can give Robo some more. Miro is he's got 4 years left, so that was an $8 million year 5 of 8. He's your 5-8. So you do have to give Nill credit. Robo's just so fascinating. Like I was going over it today. I feel like if I'm Dallas, if you can make it work, I think 11.5 somewhere around there is good. I don't know about the term, but I think 11.5 would be fair. I'm not giving him. I'm not giving anything more than 12, and he may be worth it to some other teams. But that's sort of where I would kind of fit him in. Maybe 11.5, like as you said, like the percentage of the cap, like Kaprizov's now like what 15%. I think it was like 16%.
It's like 15.6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to build a team that way. And it may be it may be the last contract Bill Guerin ever signs. If it doesn't, if it doesn't work out, but yeah, I think like 11.5 feels like a good number, as you say. Like if I'm relying on the Chambers brothers here, all the three brains kind of believing that they can get this done, then I would be okay with that. But I can't give Robo anywhere. Not anywhere near, but I can't give him somewhere near Ranton just because I've seen it too much. We have a big sample size. Like Ranton's just a step above, and fair or not, like Ranton is a bit of a dog. And we haven't seen that enough from Robo. Maybe it proves me wrong this year, but Rantanen is a bona fide guy. And as much as I want Robo to be that, and I like him as a player, I just don't think he's there. And I wouldn't go more than Rantanen. I don't know if you would disagree with that.
I think Robertson. If he gets the deal done this year, then I think he can still sign 8 years, right? If I remember correctly.
I believe so. I know
because they're going down from 7 and 8 to 6 and 7. So I think next year it'll be the longest contract you can do is 7. But I mean, Chris and I think it was actually Chris who said that. I mean, there's even a possibility that they each take a 1-year deal. And it's just a really good, large contract, $11 million for 1 year for Robo and maybe 8.5 or 9 for Harley for 1 year. Yeah. And then what that does is that will allow the Tyler Seguin contract to get off the book. And then they can really make sure that they lock those guys up. There's a couple of very good options and scenarios that the Stars could do to make this work. Now, I don't know if Harley and Robo would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
If I were those guys, I would want that guaranteed money up front, and I would want a longer contract. But if they're team first guys, like I mean, we saw Bork do it this past year. We all talked about Bork getting like $2 million, which I didn't see that out of the realm of possibility. And he signed for $950,000. So, I mean, Jim Nill works his magic. He always seems to get these players under what everyone expects. I mean, even this past year, Matt Duchene, we thought that if he was going to re-sign, that it was going to be, in the 5, 6, maybe even $7 million range because of the demand for centers at the free agent market. But that didn't happen. He got him for 4.5. Yeah, maybe you gave him an extra year that you didn't really want to give him. But $4.5 million for a guy that was a point per game player last year in the regular season, yes. So
yeah,
Jim Nill just has to work his magic, and I'm sure he's playing through all of these scenarios just like we're talking about them right now. So
yeah, and as you said, like I like to believe that Harley and Robo love being here, and maybe they'll do whatever is necessary to try to make it work. But it just is weird because like they did kind of sign those team friendly like bridge deals to begin with, and now it's like, do you want to do that again? So that's where then you get the agent involved, and I think what Harley has the is he the same agent as Kaprizov? I could be wrong on that. I think
him at $4 million is ridiculous. Like, he should have never signed that.
Yeah. Well, Miro too. I mean, his numbers incredible when you think about it.
Right.
like credit to,
especially now.
to Neil. I know that was a long time. Yeah, they got ahead of it. Again, the anti Jerry Jones. So good on him. Yeah,
is that a Micah Parsons little shot right there?
No, it would never. I would never say that. He has Rantanen and same agent. That's what it is. So he did take a bit. How about that game the other day though? Holy cow! I still don't have closure over it. Like 40-40. What the heck?
I never thought I would live to see that, but I think I turned it off after the third quarter, and I didn't give them any chance, because especially after 2 weeks ago, I was just like, this is just going downhill. So now they're 1-2-1.
Yeah. Well, after the first quarter, it was like 13-0. And I texted one of my buddies. I said, yes, the Dallas Cowboys are a football team. And then they got the block and then they started playing well again. So I don't they're keeping it interesting. So that's sort of the Cowboys way. That's what they do, enough to keep us all reeled in, and they do it every single year. So, yeah, anyways, Ryan, thanks for coming on, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Some good stuff. One more preseason game to go, and yeah, we're freaking 9 days away. Can you believe it, man? The opening night. Can't wait for it. Preseason's fun, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it to go full throttle. And Stars gonna have to be ready off the hop, man. You got Winnipeg, Colorado, Minnesota, like that's some 3 division guys. Like, here you go, Goalie. Like, figure it out.
Yep. It's going to be really interesting to see what this team can do. And again, without Jamie Benn, it's going to be very interesting to see what the leadership group does and who kind of steps up in his absence. So I'm really looking forward to it.
All righty. Well, be sure to show Ryan some love, and his brothers, of course, on Starcastic Remarks. Are dropping episodes all the time. They're an absolute hoot. Chris Chambers, as well, his brothers writing for 100 Degree Hockey. I've had him on over the summer a couple times. So show him some love there, too. I know he's excited to get another crack at that down in Cedar Park. So they'll be busy, and they'll be pumping out great content. So show them some love. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Stars. Always appreciate it. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. So that'd be awesome if we can get there as soon as possible. It's continued to grow the channel. That's awesome. Not all 5,000 are because of me. That is for sure. Maybe the last 1,500 have been, but no, I have to credit to some of the other hosts before me that have built this from the ground up. That was probably the real challenge. So I hope I'm leaving a good legacy behind. But have a great day, Stars fans. This is a late night episode for you to take in before you go to sleep. Ryan, you can go to sleep as well. I know you have a busy day at work ahead tomorrow. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Starcastic Remarks and Locked On Stars. So long, Stars fans.